What's going on, guys, and welcome to another Doctor Who review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 11th Doctor, Matt Smith story, The 11th Hour. This is, of course, the first episode for the 11th Doctor and Matt Smith. First episode of Series 5 as well. It's kind of almost a brand new start for the show in a lot of ways. New Doctor, new companion, new showrunner and Stephen Moffat, a whole new kind of crew. The only real thing staying the same here was like Murray Gold with the music. Pretty much everything else was changing, so it was a very different era of the show. Kind of the first big change in the New Who, really. So yeah, the 11th Hour. It's a story that I think is very highly praised. It is one that a lot of people love. So let's get started with the cast. Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor. So of course this is Matt Smith's first story as the 11th Doctor, and he is great from the get-go. Now, when I first watched this episode, and I've said this before with the 11th Doctor, I wasn't originally the biggest fan of the 11th Doctor because I love the 10th Doctor so much. I was just so sad to see the 10th Doctor go that I didn't really get on with the 11th Doctor straight away. Looking back on it now, though, I love the 11th Doctor, and he was good from the get-go. Now, Matt Smith wasn't a very well-known actor at all at this point, we cast him, he got cast as the Doctor, and everyone was like, who is this guy? He's really young. He was, I believe at that time, and I guess still is, maybe? I'm not sure about with Ncuti Gatwa, but definitely one of, if not the youngest actor to play the Doctor, just behind Peter Davison at that time. But yeah, people didn't know who he was, and it was like, what is going on with this guy? But now, looking back on it, he was awesome. He was awesome from the start. He really brings this young energy. Now, I mean, David Tennant was not old when he was playing the Doctor. He wasn't much older than Matt Smith, I don't think. But there is just this really younger, more childish energy about Matt Smith's Doctor that I really like. Now, is he a little bit cringy sometimes? Yes, but on the most part, as my cat makes a horrible yowl, sorry if you can hear that, on the most part, he is great. He's funny, he's silly. The chemistry with Karen Gillan is there straight away, and all in all, I think this is a great start for his Doctor. Karen Gillan as Amy Pond. Of course, Amy is the first companion for the 11th Doctor, and I mean, she is the 11th Doctor's companion. A lot of people would say that, and I would agree. No, I quite like Amy. I like Karen Gillan. I have since seen her in quite a few other things. I mean, Jumanji, Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, stuff like that. I have seen Karen Gillan in a lot of other things, and she's a great actress, and she's great in Doctor Who as well. And I do quite like Amy. She's not like my absolute favourite companion in the world, but I've come to like her more. Same thing as with the 11th Doctor. I've come to like Amy's character more as time's gone on, and she starts very good here. We start her off, she's a child. Of course, that isn't Karen Gillan playing her at that point. I think it's like her cousin or something. And then later on, the Doctor comes back, and it's Karen Gillan. It's the older Amy, and that's the Amy that we would come to know on these adventures later on. And yeah, Karen's really, really good in this one. Great start. And like I said, the chemistry with Matt Smith is pretty much there straight away. So let's get on to some points about the 11th Hour, starting with the new title sequence. So of course, brand new era of the show, brand new Doctor, and we have a new title sequence. So I'm going to talk about that here because this is the first time we see this title sequence. I really like this title sequence. I think it's one that some people aren't as big of a fan of. I mean, I think I still prefer the kind of RTD1, 9th and 10th Doctor title sequence and the music, but I like this title sequence. And I like the music as well. It's a bit of a different arrangement. Well, it's kind of the same arrangement, but actually not really, because you've got the do 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 do. That wasn't really in that kind of original theme tune. So it's nice to have something a little bit different. Then you've got the higher pitch, like woo, when we go into the into the names. And yeah, I really like this title sequence. It is one of my favorites. Like I said, probably not up there as high as the original new series sequence, but it is a good one for me. The TARDIS crashes in Amy's garden. So of course the Doctor has just regenerated, and the TARDIS is crashing, and he seems to not really know how to fly it, as is often the case after the Doctor's regenerated. He goes a little bit nuts and doesn't really know what's going on. And yeah, the TARDIS crashes in Amy's garden. She comes out to investigate, and he hops out. And yeah, she's like, what is going on here? She doesn't seem that spooked to begin with, to be honest, which is a little bit funny. And I think he does actually make reference to that later on. Like, you're actually not, some strange man's just appeared in your garden in a blue box, and you don't seem that scared. And then he's like, she starts talking about this whole crack in her wall, and he's like, if you're not scared by me and what's going on here, that must be one hell of a scary crack in your wall. The Doctor not liking any food. No, I love this scene. This is a scene that some people might not like. They think it's a bit too cringy, but I think as a post-regeneration scene, when we expect silly things to happen with the Doctor, this is one of my favorites. I really, really like this scene where he... Jeez, there's thunder. That was thunder, if you can hear that. Jeez, I did not expect that. He gets like an apple, and he wants an apple. She gives him an apple, he eats it, and then he's like, oh, why are you trying to give me an apple? You're trying to poison me. And then she gets him bacon, and he spits that out, beans, and in the end ends up going for fish fingers and custard. That's the only thing that he will eat and be happy with. I just love the scene. It's funny. We're getting to know this Doctor a little bit more, but it's also the wackiness of the regeneration. I just love that scene. Something is behind the crack in Amy's wall. So the Doctor goes to investigate this crack, and he's basically like, there's something behind this crack. He's like, wow, this is why you're so scared of this crack and being like, what's going on here? It's because it's not just a crack in your wall, there's something behind it. Prisoner Zero disguises itself, but badly. So Prisoner Zero, it turns out, it's the creature that is behind the crack in this wall. It's kind of this sort of fish-looking monster thing. I don't really know how to explain it, but it can basically disguise itself as shapeshift itself almost into whatever it wants. It shapeshifts itself into a man and his dog, but both of them, not just the man, not just the dog, the man and his dog. And he's trying to like mimic the voice of the person and the dog, but ends up just voicing like the growling of the dog, but the human is like growling. It's not the most convincing thing in the world, but that is kind of part of it. The Doctor was 12 years late to returning to Amy. So eventually the Doctor leaves, he comes back. He said he's going to be in like 5 minutes. It turns out he's been gone 12 years. Now he's back with Amy, and it's been 12 years. She's all grown up, and I love that scene as well. I mean, I don't really know why Amy is pretending to not know him at this point. I don't really know why she's doing that. Why she doesn't just say, you're back, it's been 12 years. I mean, I guess it's just suspense for the episode, but I think we know straight away this is clearly Amy. I don't really know what that suspense is all about, but it is a funny scene when he's like, you said you would stay there, and she was like, you said 5 minutes. That scene is funny. The Doctor is able to get into this conference call through a random laptop. So this is one bit of the episode that I don't really get. Now, some of these kind of first series episodes, and especially like post-regeneration episodes, I can forgive for not having the best plot in the world. And, if they're just trying to introduce the new characters, introduce the new Doctors and all that sort of stuff, I can kind of get away with it. This, for me here, is a moment that I'm not the biggest fan of, though. So he goes into this house, one of Amy's neighbors, I believe, and finds this guy on his laptop. There's a few little innuendo sort of things in there as well, which I thought was a little bit weird, but that we'll get to know a lot of that with Stephen Moffat's writing in Doctor Who. But he gets onto this laptop, and he has to get onto this conference call with all these different like leaders of the world, and all these high priority people. And he's able to get onto this call just using this dude's laptop. And then kind of gives, I think his name's Jeff. He gives the laptop to Jeff and goes, you're now in charge of all these people. And the guy starts doing some like typing and coding and stuff. It's like, how does this guy know what he's doing? Like, what's going on here? It's just like, it reminds me of the scene in like Aliens in London World War III, where Mickey is able to like hack into like the unit nuclear missiles just from his computer. It's like, how does this work? The Doctor's speech to the atraxi. So the atraxi is kind of the being that is trying to get Prisoner Zero off of Earth, but it's kind of like, almost going to destroy Earth to get to Prisoner Zero. And in the end, they end up defeating Prisoner Zero, and the Doctor basically has to go back to the atraxi flies away, but then the Doctor brings the alien back again, brings the atraxi back again to then basically have a talking to it, going, "This planet is not a danger to you. Do not come back here." And yeah, has a big old talking to, and that is when the big kind of "I am the Doctor" moment happens. The 11th Doctor gets his new costume, and it is a great moment. And we see like old Doctor's faces pop up, and it's a great moment. The new TARDIS. So yeah, the TARDIS has had a restructure as well. We've got this brand new TARDIS, and I like this TARDIS. Originally, I didn't know what to think about it, but I like it now. It's very different to the Eccleston-Tennant TARDIS. The Eccleston-Tennant TARDIS is, I guess, in a lot of ways more like a classic TARDIS in that it is quite like the actual console room is quite small. There's not a massive amount going on in there. This is the first TARDIS that, and I mean, it is probably the most elaborate TARDIS. It's really big. It has like 2 levels. It has all these different knickknacks and things going on with it. There's a lot going on in this TARDIS. It's vibrant. It's colorful. And yeah, it's almost like a toy box. Like it's like, you can imagine this as a toy. Like it's just, for kids, this is probably the cool TARDIS, whereas the Tennant TARDIS was kind of the grungy TARDIS. This is the cool hip kids TARDIS, and I honestly really like it. So there we have it. That is my review for the 11th Hour, the 11th Doctor's first story, Series 5's first story as well. A rating out of 10, I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. Now, I was going to give it a 10. I think I originally was thinking I was going to give it a 10, but just those couple of things like that whole thing with the laptop, which I just don't really understand, and maybe a few slightly too cringy moments here and there, and the plot not being the most elaborate thing in the world. Like I said, I can let that off a little bit because it's a post-regeneration story, and this does a good job of doing what it needs to do with getting to know this new Doctor, getting to know the new companion. It does a really good job of that. So that's why I'm giving it a 9.5, but there's just those couple of little things that mean that I can't quite give it a 10, but it's still right up there, and it is probably the best post-regeneration story, maybe behind Spearhead from Space. But yeah, it's well up there. It is a good story for sure. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.